I like to put myself in situations that's incredibly uncomfortable. I like to do things that are so hard that I often feel like, is it even worth doing? Like the biotech company that I'm doing, Imagine Biotech, it's very difficult what we're doing. We're trying to create a new service in an industry that's somewhat archaic, and you're dealing with guys that have been in the biotech space for 30, 40 years, and they inherently will have some form of cognitive bias in the way they go about doing their work. So just so you understand what I'm talking about is that if I'm an investor, either an angel investor, a venture capital firm, or anyone looking to invest in a new drug, you got to do your due diligence, right? You got to do your due diligence on the finances of that company, the due diligence on the legal, your due diligence on the founder himself, see what he's done in the past, what kind of individual he is. A lot of investors will tell you that they invest in the founder as opposed to the business, and I agree with that, because your business will effectively pivot and iterate as you go along. The existing business model that I'm investing in today will likely not be here in 2 years. So that's why it's important to back the founder and have the right founder. And the last thing I would say is that the due diligence, when it comes to scientific due diligence, the due diligence that you would need to look at to see, does this drug that they're proposing to do, or that this drug that they've done in preclinical trials or animal studies on, is it going to have the ability to become FDA approved and used in humans? Because what happens in drug development is this. You and I come up with an idea, we want to develop a cancer drug. Most drugs are protein based. Okay? And for the longest time, scientists have struggled to understand how a protein folds. So humans are made up of proteins. Proteins are the building blocks of life. Without proteins, we would not exist, right? And humans have 20 amino acids, right? I don't know if you know this. I'm just gonna. If this is too boring for you, just tell me to stop, man. And what happens is, companies like DeepMind, a company called DeepMind was acquired by Google, and they developed a solution called AlphaFold. And what AlphaFold would do is it would use AI to help you understand how a protein folds. Because if you look at a protein, picture like a hair and you tangle that hair up, you need to unravel that protein so you can understand if that protein will be compatible in that drug with the cancer that it's going after, for example, in layman's terms. Mm-hmm. So these technologies like AlphaFold came out like 5-6 years ago. So the company DeepMind, I don't know if you ever heard of the story of AlphaGo. So it was a game where the computer was playing against the guy in Go. So Go is a game that's played in Asia for centuries, man, hundreds, if not thousands of years. And the computer went up against the world champion, and the computer beat him. Same thing in chess. The computer went, and this is all from this company, DeepMind.
Okay.
So then they created AlphaGo, which is for the Go. Then they had the chess one. The chess one beat the grandmaster. Crazy. And then they created AlphaFold to understand how a protein unravels. So in my team is that if a guy comes to me, I'm looking to invest in this particular drug, we will get the information that they give us from the founder or from the company they're looking to invest in. And we will use a tool like AlphaFold to understand how the protein unfolds. And I have computational biologists doing this. This is not me doing it, but I understand what they're doing, because it's important to know what's going on at every facet of your business. And they'll use a docking software. So docking software, once you unravel the protein, you can see the different sequences of amino acids that I spoke to you about. And it's important to know that, because if you can see the combinations of amino acids, you can dock onto that with this is all done digitally now, no animals involved. And then you can see if that protein will have compatibility with the protein or the target interaction of a cancer cell. And that will tell you the efficacy of the drug. Is this drug going to work? And we can determine that early on without having to do animal trials. Animal trials started in 1938. And it became mandatory for any drug that is being developed, you had to test on animals. And the animals being tested on is mice, beagle dogs, chimpanzees, and rabbits and stuff like that. Obviously, you hear about all these unethical things. But up until 2022, it was mandatory by the FDA. And then in 2022, they did the FDA Modernization Act, which made it no longer mandatory to test on animals. Doesn't mean you can completely circumvent testing on animals, because it's still kind of seen as the gold standard. So you get in vitro and in vivo, and these are basically test tubes and testing on a live organism. And what we are doing is called in silico. So basically doing tests with technology. So we are able to now ascertain if this proposed drug has the efficacy it's needed to work. And then we go one step further and we test what's called ADMET and PK modeling. So ADMET stands for absorption, distribution, metabolization, excretion, and toxicity. Because if a drug works in you, it's one thing, but how will the human physiology interact with that drug? Will that drug eradicate the cancer? Yeah, but how toxic is it for the human? Because that will determine if that drug can get FDA approved or not. So we're helping guys get to that answer a lot quicker, saving them hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars by doing this early on. And also potentially saving some dogs along the way. But this is something new that hasn't been done as a service that we're offering. So it's about now, how do we educate our audience and these older guys that are in these companies that were doing the scientific due diligence before with this cognitive bias where we've always done it this way. That's a modern thing you'll get. We've always done it this way.
Yeah.
No one wants to see anything else. So that's what we're doing. And the reason why I got into doing Imagine Biotech is because I had personally gone through a health experience during the time I had the lab. I won't dive too much into it. I'm not comfortable with it yet, but I went through several drugs that eventually helped me. But the two drugs that I started off with were incredibly toxic for me. And that's when I learned about like drug discovery and drug development, the costs associated to drugs. And eventually the drug that helped me was a protein-based drug. And then I started to learn about AlphaFold and learning about there's these technologies available in academia, in like student universities, but they're not being applied in the commercial business world. And that's when I met my co-founder. He's a lot older than us.